A few weeks ago, I reviewed a bunch of your most unpopular, steaming hot Transformers opinions, but a few of the most outrageous ones got left out. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. But this time, there's a terrifying twist. The thing is, I'm also a bitter, angry Transformers fan, aren't we all? So this time around, I'm throwing in some of my personal hottest, most hated takes as a Transformers fan. And yeah, I'm absolutely terrified of you guys. We're a freaking scary fandom. So kick back, I guess, and prepare to chew those fingernails while my reputation as a content creator slips into complete oblivion. I'm definitely locking my door the next few nights. The Michael Bay Transformers movies, including Age of Extinction and The Last Knight, are goated movies. I feel like we're now split into two general audiences of people who hate on the Bayformer movies, and then those who say, no, they're all great. And I'm embarrassed for both of them, because no, they're not all great, and they're not all trash. You can hand select. You don't have to be a hard set opinion one way or another. It's just such an extreme statement, and I don't want to be associated with that.
I've never met this man in my life.
G1 designs aren't that good. The thing is, the G1 designs were made 40 years ago at a completely different time, and at the time, they were really special and revolutionary. That being said, even though most of the designs are just really cheesy, I think one of the things that's aged so well about Transformers is how well those designs can convert to a modern medium. Something that's special about Transformers is how they're able to be updated with more detail and then better proportions and then be a really cool looking design just when you update that concept. But if you take them as they are, they just look so bad. Legacy Blitzwing is not that bad. I said it. The jet mode is not as bad as people say it is. I actually do really enjoy that figure. It's very flawed on several levels, but he has a good feel and hand to him, and I'm very much glad that I got him, although I kind of regret buying him when I did, because he's on sale everywhere now for like $30 for a leader class. That's incredible. Reviewing early Transformers figures that were originally stolen factory copies is not a big deal. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, that's totally fine. I'm not going to explain it because honestly, I already think it's overly dramatized. I've never done it on my channel, and I don't think I ever will, but it's just largely not my personality or really my cup of tea anyways. I don't think I've ever seen so much virtue signaling on any topic more than this one. Those copies are out. The people stealing them in the factories, it's obviously illegal. It's bad. They shouldn't do it, but they will continue to do it. So the people who are buying those copies in the aftermarket on eBay for higher prices, if they're willing to pay those prices, that means they get an early copy of a figure that they get more views on their channel because they're reviewing it before everyone else is. You know who probably cares the least out of everybody? Hasbro. At the end of the day, us, the general fandom, gets more in-hand photos of a figure that we wouldn't have been able to see more of for months to come. The person making the video gets more views, and Hasbro gets free marketing. Hundreds of thousands of people see that figure from an early review who wouldn't have because that review was made. Beast Wars has good animation. Ironhide's death in Transformers Dark of the Moon was a good thing. To be fair, I don't think that this is a hot take for a lot of people. I think especially more casual watchers who just watched that original trilogy thought it was really sad, but ultimately understood the purpose of it. But over the years, I've just heard from so many children saying that Transformers Dark of the Moon could never be their favorite movie solely because they killed Ironhide in it and it ruined the whole film for them. Oh my gosh, that's so wild. This sounds so mean, but it gives me secondhand embarrassment for being in the same community, the same fandom as some of these people. These people are largely the same reason that we can't ever have an impactful story beat in a Transformers movie. That's the reason they could never actually kill off Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast for good. It's because if they did, the community of children would be so angry that they killed a character they liked without realizing that that's the point of movies. That's the point of weight, about plot, about climax. You're supposed to feel nervous for the characters. My point is, Ironhide's death in Dark of the Moon was a good thing, not only because he was one of the first well-developed characters to actually bite the dust, but because it was there for an impactful plot reason, being Sentinel Prime's betrayal. The next one is much more of a general idea, and people struggle to understand this concept so desperately that it's painful. This idea is being able to tell the very big difference between something that you like, whether it's a TV show, a toy, whatever it may be, versus something that is good. Likewise, something that you don't like versus something that is bad. And if there was more people who understood this very simple concept on the internet, there would be so much less people dying defending their opinion like it's their firstborn child. Because when you're able to reasonably distinguish the difference between something that you like versus something that's good, you don't feel the need and take it so personally when people share a different opinion than you. For example, I love Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. It is one of my favorite movies and a great time to watch. and it's an absolutely trash movie. It is so poorly written, it's horribly plotted. There's so many people out there that really don't like the movie, and for good reason, and I don't take it personally when they talk about that because I get it. On the opposite side of that spectrum, there's The Batman, which is a movie that's very well made, very well composed. The music, the cinematography, the acting is all wonderful, but my goodness, the movie was so disappointing to me. I did not enjoy it. That doesn't really change the fact though that I can acknowledge it's a really good, well-made movie. When people praise that movie and make it their religion, I don't feel offended by it because I can understand. It's like, yeah, it is a good movie. I just happen to not enjoy it. And yes, I do understand that not everything has a distinct line. Not everything is objectively good or bad, but there's also some things that aren't. There are some movies that are just bad. It just means you enjoy it, and good for you. Honestly, you should enjoy what you enjoy, and you win for liking something I don't. Hate on the Cliffjumper Earthrise mold is dumb as heck. I think parts forming isn't really cheating because some characters in real life have better proportions if you cheat a little. For those who don't know, parts forming is a term used for transforming toys, where instead of just being able to fully convert from one mode to another, certain pieces need to be removed before you can transform it fully to the robot mode, where you then reattach that certain piece. And I genuinely don't think people care as much as they want to think that they do care. I definitely know a handful of figures that take it way too far, but largely speaking, it's okay. It's fine. Parts forming is not a sin against humanity. If done properly, can actually provide a better alternate mode and robot mode that wouldn't have been possible. Also, the Cliffjumper mold is absolutely fantastic, and I just got an absurd amount of comments saying, oh my gosh, he's such a good figure, but he's garbage because his backpack comes off for the trunk of his car. What? Parts forming done right is perfectly fine. It's okay. Starscream is overrated.
What did he say?
Yes, I know that Starscream has like a cult following around him. I think he definitely adds a lot of much needed personality to the Decepticon faction. It's mainly just the design, like the whole gray jet with red and blue highlights just doesn't really cut it for me. It's just a really boring, bland design. Oh, and while we're on the topic, G1 Megatron is also overrated.
That's it, I'm out of here.
This one's gonna cut even deeper than Starscream because it's not just his design, it's also his cardboard personality.
The Decepticons have won!
I know that it's unfair to compare something from 40 years ago up against today's modern standards, but it's the fact that people still love to consider him like one of the greatest villains ever, and it's just absolutely not true. And yeah, this also applies to like the Bayverse Megatron. They made him even more overly maniacal. They basically made him a monster. Like, I'm not a fan of that either.
You fail me yet again, Starscream. Get them!
You know, at first I really wasn't on board with this take, but over time I've thought about it and I 100% agree. Straight 5 out of 5. Hasbro is not objectively worse at making Transformers than third-party or knockoff companies. I cannot count the hundreds and hundreds of comments I've gotten that is something along the lines of a third-party company could do 10 times better. That's because they're stealing the design from Hasbro. People are just so ready to trash Hasbro anytime a knockoff company comes out with like an upscaled, better painted version of say like a Studio Series Blackout or Grindor figure. And while I absolutely agree that Hasbro is way overpricing their products right now, how wild is it to be surprised when we get a bigger, better, cheaper, more well-painted version of a toy from a knockoff company operating in China when they stole that design from a first-party company that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars paying engineers in order to create that original design. I'm not hating on knockoff companies. They have their place. They are operationally illegal. I'm not a White Knight. We get better figures because of it. But then to put that on Hasbro, they're beating them out because they're stealing their designs. Of course they're beating them out. Those companies also virtually operate selling only online, whereas Hasbro has to compensate and afford being able to pay for widespread distribution. So my advice is the next time you get an oversized knockoff figure that you absolutely love, instead of mocking Hasbro, thank Hasbro. They are 98% of that figure. Now that's knockoff or KO companies. The other one is third-party companies. Third-party companies are non-licensed, non-official companies that are still making Transformers toys just without the legal rights to do so. The difference is that they're not stealing designs from Hasbro. They're designing that figure on their own. They have their own engineers in the company. The only thing that they're technically stealing from Hasbro is the likeness of that Transformers character they're making. They are hundreds and hundreds of dollars oftentimes. It's funny how those knockoff company figures are like 30, 40, 50 bucks, but then an originally designed and engineered third-party company from something like Fans Toys, they're always more expensive. And it's because those companies also had to pay engineers, and now you end up with a more expensive figure. Now in the case of Hasbro's, say, Movie Masterpiece line, where they are more expensive and still not as good as those third-party figures, might I remind you that they're still significantly cheaper. They range from $130 to $160, whereas the same third-party figure will be $250 to $300. But even then, even though third-party figures do often look significantly better, they're rarely any fun to handle, and that's something that Hasbro has absolutely nailed. So it depends on what you're looking for. They both have their value. I love third-party figures, I love Hasbro figures, but I swear if I see another person compare them,
I just can't do it. I can't take like this.
Okay, let's cool off. Trax is so underrated and he needs more love. How much more love could you possibly want than that wonderful deluxe class Kingdom Trax version, am I right? Transformers Prime is the only decent Transformers TV show to ever exist. I think generally speaking, the standards of Transformers fans has dropped so low because we've largely only gotten garbage media. But people confuse what's good in Transformers versus what's good in the real world. And the matter of fact is something mediocre in the real world kind of translates to the best of the best in the Transformers medium. Transformers fans will watch the Prime TV show and unironically be like, oh my gosh, if there's only 8, 9, or 10 things wrong with it, that's incredible. It's like, I mean, yeah, I guess for Transformers, it's incredible. Like if any other non-Transformers related TV show made the mistakes that even Transformers Prime made, I probably wouldn't like the show, and you probably wouldn't either. But I enjoy it. I really enjoy it, and I think there's a reason a lot of fans do. War for Cybertron series was one of the best, if not the best, Transformers shows. My guy, I'm afraid to tell you, you gotta get out there and watch a few more TV shows, I think.
This cannot be.
G1 fans, aka G1ers, are by far the most hateful and unkind group of fans in the community. I love G1. Half my collection, if not more, is G1 focused or G1 based characters in some way or another. So being someone who is in the middle of that road, G1 fans are just mean and spiteful. If you've ever been on a Transformers forum like TFW 2005 or Cybertron.com, you will so often see there be like a news update for some sort of new figure from the Michael Bay Transformers universe, and the G1 obsessed fans will infiltrate that and make some sort of out-of-pocket hateful comment like, more of this trash. Ugh, complete garbage. Those Michael Bay movies are a lot of our G1s. A major portion, if not a majority portion of the fandom that exists now exists because of those movies. So you do not have to like it. That's perfectly fine. Stop insulting and harassing other people for liking something that makes perfect sense. In my opinion, The Last Knight was not an okay movie, it was one of the best. Age of Extinction is a great movie. These films did so many things wrong that I genuinely get exhausted even thinking about it. I hate these movies so much. These movies don't accidentally get the reviews and scores that they get on these movies, and it's not because they're a little overhated. They are some of the worst, most poorly made films of all time. If you like the movie, good for you. Once again, I love Revenge of the Fallen, doesn't make it a good movie. Hasbro has largely done a fantastic job with the Transformers brand. I don't think that this was so much of a hot take a decade or so ago, but as time has gone on, the fandom overall has become, I think, a little bit more critical, and there has been some notable flaws from Hasbro. But people take that to the far extreme, I think, now, where they just say that they're absolute garbage and that anyone else makes is far better. But I think that Hasbro's just done a wonderful job with 90% of their figures from both the generations like G1 lines and then also the Studio Series movie character lines. That being said, I do understand the flaws I have, and one of their biggest issues is their pricing and how it's gone up more over the last 4 years than it has in like the history of Transformers. They are a corporation. They do not care about me. They do not care about you. The only reason that they as a company want to make good products is because they know good products generally sell better. I just think that understanding the difference is really important for striking a balance in an opinion from not just soullessly hating them no matter what they push out, but also not just kissing up to them no matter what faults they have, because I have seen the extremities on both sides. I could go for some cheap audience engagement here by telling you to comment your unpopular opinion in the comments, but the matter of fact is I know you already have, because we all have strong opinions, and if you had one, then you've already commented. So, you know what? I'll meet you in the comment section. But yeah, that's it for today. Later, guys.